Hello everyone, welcome back to my studio. This is Colleen with Designs of Value Art. And today we're going to take a look at, we're going to go revisit the stems, the stem, the leaves, and the sepals just to make sure we're where we want to be. Now I did make a mistake, so I'm going to show you how I correct it and how I thought about the design was I was looking for the center of interest. Excuse me. And this is our center of interest. We've got this highlight, this yellow, and again, if you break this into thirds, you're going to be crossing right into that, probably a little more so here. This is our center of interest right here. Okay, so we want this to be the most visual. The yellow is really going to help because again, the eye sees yellow before any other color. So that's a good thing and to have in the center of interest. However, that means the highlight's coming from here, creates this highlight over here. And I did it wrong on the stem. So that's how I figured out I had made that mistake. So let's go ahead and correct the stem. All right, so we're going to change the highlight on this stem. Excuse me, I have a frog in my throat today. So as I touch this, it's pretty dry. I am picking up just a touch of that undercolor, but we should be okay. So we're going to start with the highlight. I've got a number 2 flat bright. And again, the brights are the short bristle flats. And I'm just looking for a regular long one. I very seldom have one. I think I might have one right here. Nope. Here we go. This isn't necessarily an oil brush, but you can see this is a 3/8. It's also a, I can't think of the word, an angled brush, let's put it that way. But the bristles on this brush, and I'll go to one that's a little bit bigger so you can see the comparison of the about the same size. The brush on the left, which is not a bright, is much longer. This brush is a number 8. It's about the same size as this one, a little bit smaller, but the bristles are much shorter. And the reason we want you to have a bright is because it is easier to blend with. So when you're laying down your brush and you're blending, you don't have those long bristles, and you don't have as much control with those long bristles as you do with the brights. So I'm just picking up the highlight, putting it right over the dark. That we had applied yesterday. But I'm glad I caught that because it really would not have looked correctly or correct with the design, with the highlight coming in from the wrong direction. It's always something you want to check. Every time you paint something, you want to say to yourself, where is the highlight coming from? And I didn't do that yesterday, but this morning, when I was looking for the center of interest, I realized that I had painted the stem wrong. So all we're going to do is switch it around. which is easy enough process, especially since the paint underneath is dry. I'm just making sure I got enough on there. It's with the dark underneath, I'm gonna have to have a pretty good layer of paint to cover that dark up. This is a small brush, so I'm having to reload quite a bit, but since it's such a small area for blending. Okay, now I'm going to dry wipe my brush. I'm not going to put it in water because that'll loosen the paint up. And I'm going to apply our mid value. And that's going to go right up here against the sepal. It's actually going to make that jump out a little bit. And it's actually going to make this sepal that's over the top of the stem come up a little bit as well, which is a good thing. Anytime you want to bring something forward, you lighten it and darken it underneath. Lighten the object and darken underneath the object to bring it forward. All right, this will only take a moment. Then we're going to go ahead and look at the sepals. Now, since this is going to be our center of interest, I do want to brighten this up a little bit with more yellow, and this one again with the green. Now, technically, with this layer right now, with the mid value, I'm actually just putting a second layer on in the same area. All we're doing is switching around the dark and the highlight. There we go. And I'm going to dry wipe my brush one more time. I'm going to turn this so I can make sure my outside of my stem is nice and straight. And this should cover this up fairly easily. Yeah, I thought so. So it's important to make sure your highlight is coming in from the correct area on every object in the design. Now I'm adding this entire video to YouTube. So you'll be able to see from beginning to end how this is painted. And if you really like this type of painting in oils, I like it with the water mixable or water soluble, people call it both, painting. And then I do also have watercolors on my YouTube channel as well as my Patreon channel. So I would recommend that you check out both. Just go to patreon.com/Colleen D. Aiken and you will find me. There we go. All right. So one more time, I'm going to dry wipe my brush. I always like to, when I'm going to start blending, do it 2-3 times to get that paint out of there so you're not just spreading the last color that you had on there. So I'm going to just lay my brush down as best I can in this little tiny area and blend my values. Blend down the left side first to get that highlight established. And I'm going to blend down the right-hand side. Now I am going to darken this outside edge a little bit with the gray because it's not really showing up very well. There we go, that's better. In order to make something curve, you have to have a highlight, a mid-value, and a dark. You can have the highlight go right down the middle, and then you'd have a mid-value, and a dark on both outside edges, or you can do it the way we're doing it, where you have the highlight, the mid-value, and the dark. So there's always a couple different ways that you can lay in your colors on a cylinder like this. So keep that in mind as you're painting your objects. If you would like, comment in my comment section on this video, and I would be thrilled to go over how you can shade different objects and do a technical class that way if you would like. Just let me know in the comments. I'm just darkening this outside edge again, so it wasn't quite dark enough. You always want to make a turn. There we go. Blend that in. I really need to dry wipe my brush because that's pretty dark in there. There we go. There we go. I'm happy with that. I'm much happier with the way that looks. It just looks a lot. I'm just going to straighten out my edge here, which is something you always want to do. Okay, now get myself a clean piece of paper towel here. I'm going to pick up actually the highlight on our stem value. And I'm going to deepen this area one more time. I've already done this once. I want to make sure, since this is the center of interest, that we get this in here correctly. There we go. That's better. Now I want to do the same thing on the large sepal next to it. That's this one. We're going to just deepen these areas. One more time. Just a cast of yellow over there. All right. Now this is completely dry, so we're just going to fluff the outside edge, soften it in. Happy with it. Okay. I always try to stand up my design and take a look at it that way, because that's the way it's going to be hanging on the wall. Or yep, that looks better. Okay. So let's go ahead and we're going to do some detail on the rose petals. I'm going to set this brush aside after I clean it, and we're going to go to a liner. There we go. Now I have a Da Vinci 2 liner. Put it up against the rose so you can see it a little bit better. Do it up here, there we go. And it's not a real long rigger or line work type brush. It's just a nice little liner. I'm getting it wet because I haven't used it yet today. And I'm actually going to add a little bit of water to my paint, and we're going to do the dark color of the pink rose on the detail. Now with this line, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, this line comes up, it hits that highlight, and it actually creates a bulge and comes back down. So we want to do the same thing. That's going to create more of the illusion that that bulge is coming forward, and that's what it should be doing. So you want to start up on the tip of your brush, reload as often as you need to. Now this isn't real solid if you take a look at this. This line is kind of a hit and miss type line, so I'm not going to be real concerned about that, but I do want to create that bulge, and it's a little thicker in the bulge too. Yep. And I roll my brush through the paint, and I'm going to show you how I do that when I'm loading it, when there's water on it. And I'm just going to get some more water on my brush. All right, so I got water on there. See how it pretty much dissolves the paint with that water? That's what we're looking for right now. We're creating an ink consistency. And I'm rolling it to fill my brush up, and I'm rolling it also to create a point on that brush. So that's always good to know that you want to do that. I'm not going to be too concerned about filling this in completely. So as I said, if you look at the reference material, it is not necessarily like that. I'm going to make that just a little bit higher yet. There we go. That's better. So it's creating that look of a bulge, and I'm going to just take off some of the bottom here. There we go. See how nice that little tool works? You take off paint when you want to, and you want to make sure that your paint underneath is completely dry. And I'm probably getting my hand in the stem. I guess I'm not too bad. There we go. I like that better. Okay. Take a look at it this way. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, so we got that one in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the veins up in here. But let's work on this side first and get that pretty dark in there. I have to see if we can, if we have to add in any more dark on this. I don't think so. So it starts up here. Notice how my brush is almost straight up and down. And that's what you want. If you don't have the right out edge here, just go ahead and trim it in till it is. I'm going to darken this just a little bit more in value. So all I did was go up and reach into my ultramarine blue. Just picked up a pin drop of that color because I just want this to be dark enough to see it. I'm going to just reinforce what I have here right now. And then I'm going to clean my brush in water. Pick up, and I just have the next layer up, next value up created here. And I'm just picking that up on my brush. We're going to create a highlight right in here. Mine is not going to be exactly like the design because I didn't make it that way, and that's okay. But this will make it somewhat like that. Actually, we'll go up here. Pick up some more of that color. I think it needs a little more water. And that's something you're just going to have to feel for. If it's not moving and you don't have the inky consistency that you want, then you have to add a touch more water. But that's something you're really the only one that can tell if that's the case. All right. Now I'm going to go back to the dark again, kind of going back and forth and doing what we need. So we're going to go over the edge here and over the top. And then we're going to blend it all in. Soften this one in a little bit. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to clean this brush and I'm going to set it down. We'll come back to it when it's time to do those veins. And I'm going to pick up my number 2. Now it's nice and dry and clean of any other color or value of paint. And all I'm going to do is soften these highlights in. That's what it needs. we got the dark in up here, so we're going to just blend these two together. I'm going to pick up a little more dark for down here. There we go. Dry wipe my brush, and now I can just blend these two colors together. That's what I wanted. Right there. That's good. All right. Now I'm going to just softly go over this because I want to soften that value. There we go. Now for this one too, I'm going to pick up some of the dark, reapply it where we need it. We need some more up in here. Get that off of there. All right. Dry wipe my brush real well and soften these two values together. Okay, now this edge, this one I have some of that highlight in there. Doesn't have to be quite as white or light as those two. There we go. Now, did it create the folds that we were looking for? No, I don't think it did. And the reason being is the dark is not dark enough yet. So I'm going to pick up my palette knife. Pull some of that pink, dark pink away and add in just a touch of the ultramarine blue. Now this will go purple real quick, so gosh, start out with just a small amount of that ultramarine. I think what I just did is going to be great. I hope. Again, you never really know until you add it to the design to see. And with this water too on the brushes, that could weaken the value. So you have to be aware of that too. It still could have a little bit more blue in it. And I just picked up a ton more blue, so clean that out. Oh, my palette knife's over here, okay. Now don't forget, excuse me, I can't believe I have this frog. This being our center of interest, everything going in this direction gets lighter and less noticeable because it's not in the center of interest. So keep that in mind as you paint these things that are further away from the center of interest. All right, now this is really, really dark as I look at it. I got a feeling that might be what we need because I'm not able to get it dark enough apparently. It's almost a grape color. There we go. Yeah, that's better. deepen the outside edges here too as I go. When you add that water, the paint kind of collects, so you got to make sure that you get that little beads of paint out of there, so you don't want them to dry on there. All right, clean this brush out. I'm really glad we're using water mixable oils, because we would be using turpentine, and that would really be horrible. So all right, let's see what we can do with this now. Just real lightly softening, because I don't want to lose that dark value that I worked so hard to get. All right, so to me, the light is just a little bit too light. So I'm going to just pick up a touch of our dark pink on my number 2 flat, and I'm going to load both sides, and I'm going to test it here because I definitely want this one to not be very bright. All right, yep, that's going to work out well. I don't want this to compete with this, because that's the center of interest. This is not. So you always have to keep that in mind as you do these things. Picking up some more paint and just softening those highlights in a little bit. Okay, we're going to let that set up for a little bit. We'll revisit it if we feel we need to. Now, as I look at the reference material, we do have a dark in here, but what I want to do is I want to start with the back of the petal. So I'm going to turn it around and we're gonna, but you know, I really want to have this pulled towards me, so I'm gonna turn it around again. We'll start from this top edge and pull it towards us. Now we have to pull it in the right direction. So the right direction is actually going to start by that highlight. We've got this dark value up here, which we can just lay in, and then we can take our liner brush and pull out in the correct direction. So this highlight is actually creating a direction change on the veins. So over here they pull this way, and over here they pull this way. So that's something you definitely want to take a look at, because if they're not going in the right direction, it's not going to work. Now we're going to put that top portion in first, and it's fairly thick. It starts up here. and it comes up to this highlight, and then it gets slimmer. We want it to see it though. And then as it goes this way, it gets thicker. You don't have to be too concerned about how you apply this portion. Because we're going to be pulling the veins out from it. That doesn't mean that I'm going to go a little darker over here. We can just put them in real messy. Just don't have to be concerned about the veins, I guess is what I'm trying to say at this point. Fighting with my paint right now because it's drying out. Okay, so we've got that in. Clean that brush. Now, every time I clean my brush out in water, which I try not to do very often, is I wipe it on my baby cloth, just to keep it nice and clean and dry. You don't need it wet. All right, so I'm picking up some more of the dark value, rolling my brush in my paint to get that nice tip. I'll move it up here so you can see that tip. We'll start on the right hand side of that highlight. So there's some very light ones down here. So let's go ahead and start with these darker ones that come out to the right. Almost the way we've got this value laid in. Reloading my brush. Reinforcing that one, and there is a smaller one up here again, almost the way I have that laid in, that it actually comes out from up here like that. And this gets filled in a little bit darker so we can see it. Now I am keeping this ink consistency. Okay, so those are in. Now there is another one, and it's a little lighter in value, but it's still here. Comes out almost just like this. So when you want something lighter in value, what do? You lift up the heaviness or the pressure that you're applying to your brush. So you want to make that fairly soft as you apply pressure to the brush on the design. And we're just going to bring some more soft ones down. Reloading my brush. Now there is a dark one right here. Actually, it comes further over that edge. There we go. And another one up here. We'll go to the other side. Loading my brush, bringing it to a point. Now the largest one over here on the left hand side. It kind of comes down like this and goes in this direction. A little different than the rest. And then we've got some lighter ones, so you lift up your weight of your brush and make it very soft. Goes like that. Then there's one right in here. It has a point to it like that. And then there's another one down here like that. And we'll bring it right over the and there's a very, very, very light one that comes down like this. And it almost stops right at that crease there. Here we go. Okay, so we've got that leaf done, or petal I should say. Now I do want to reinforce this edge, so I'm going to create a corner here, and I'm going to bring it down like this. And then it gets wider at the bottom. And it's not necessarily veins, but it almost appears like a vein. Now this one we're going to turn around because I do need to pull towards me and show you here. We're going to add in just a few veins here, and then we'll go on and add in a few veins over here. Now, if you have an issue, you're looking back at the resource material and you're not able to go right to the petal that you want, you can create with your paper towel, just cut out a square and put that square right where that petal is, and that you block out the petals around it, and then you're not constantly looking for the correct petal that you want to work on. Just a little tip there on how to make your life a little bit easier as you paint. I know when I first started I had an issue with that. Now I'm making some of these thicker and I'm making some of them smaller, and that's pretty much the way this is. Now while I have it upside down, I'm going to do the veins on here. Same value, same pile of paint. Let's reload. First thing I want to do is reinforce this edge. Gives you the separation of the front of that petal and the inside of the petal. We're going to be working on the inside of this petal. And not a lot of veins, but a few. Now, these come right from this corner and go up and around, and they follow the growth direction of that petal. You want to have some darker, you want to have some lighter, you want to have some thinner. There we Something on there. All right. You want to have some go all the way up to the top. Now, in order to see how they look, that's not too bad. You want to turn it up the right way so you can see how they look. Now, there's a very dark shadow right underneath that. And it's this value, same value. You could kind of drift over and pick up a little bit of that darker color that I made. Boy, that paint is drying quickly. Yeah, there it is still. Okay, that's better. Now, since this is a shadow, we don't want to soften it in and blend it around the surface around it, because a shadow doesn't do that. I'm just looking to see how high up it goes. Goes beyond the edge of that. All right, now just looking to see where we want to be with this. Actually, this petal back here comes over the front, so I'm going to clean my brush out and set it aside. I'm going to pick up a flat. I have no paint on it, that's a good thing. And I'm going to pick up straight white. It's a titanium white. And this is without any water. So this petal here, it's really pretty bright, comes down. We'll shape it in first like that. See how that immediately gave that petal a curve? That's what we needed. That's what it was missing. And it comes down right to about there. So we got it in there. Now I'm going to dry wipe my brush. I'm going to pick up the mid-value pink that I have here. And I'm going to put that on this outside edge, because I want this outside edge to curve down, and to do that you need that darker value on there. Okay, so that's right. I'm going to soften in this line here. It's just a little bit too dark, so I'm just kind of going over it with this value. Dry wiping my brush. And I'm going to just soften that petal in. There we go. That's much better. Now I'm going to actually pick up the dark pink here and recreate this. It's just almost a purple value, which is not what the picture is. There we go. Okay, so we've got that corrected in the way we want it. I'm going to do the same thing with these petals up here, because I think they need another coat there. And then we'll go on and put some well, I'm back. I apologize. My camera cut out there. I think my SD card ran out of space, so got a new one in. All right. We were going to add in some values up there. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to pick up the dark pink we've got on our palette. Yep. And as I look at these, not a lot of value change in there, so I think they need more white than anything else, but, or light, I should say. Reinforce the dark. And since it's both the same value here, we're going to do this on both at the same time. So I'm dry wiping my brush to get that darker value out of there. And now I'm going to go up to the mid value pink. And we're going to apply this. Yeah, this is going to look better. Just a little bit too much of that dark showing through from the background still. But that's okay. That's why we go back in and do the detail work at the end, and we can double check everything, and that's what we're doing here. Now this one I can actually get a lighter value on this outside edge because it's just big enough. The other one's just a little bit too small. There we go. Dry wipe my brush, walk my hand back to the number, and gently soften these two together. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Start with the outside edge first. Now I'm just using the portion of the brush that I need to. Not in this highlight especially, it's such a small area. I'm just laying a little bit of those bristles down, not all of them. Now with mid value to the dark, I can lay my entire brush down and soften that in. Just like that. All right, so let's go ahead and do some more veining work. I'm going to do just a little bit here. We're not going to do a whole ton more. We're going to do just a little bit here, a little bit up in here, and then just a little bit in here. I don't want to just soften this in a little bit here. With that water in there, it just kind of makes it skip around a little bit. I don't like that, for veins especially. That looks better. Okay. Now there is a dot right here, right where that dot is. So we're going to leave that there. So that's good. Just looking at these veins, softening them in where they need to be softened in. All right. I am going to highlight that outside edge a little bit more. That's because I think it needs it. Not a ton, but just one more layer is really going to bring this value up to where it needs to be. bring it around this way. A little bit better. There we go. Dry wipe my brush, and then I'm going to soften that in. And that's pretty much all it's going to be, is just softening it in. Just want that outside edge to be lighter. Don't want it to be white. And since this is more the center of the interest, this one should be lighter. Now I'm going to try, since we're not going to do a lot of veins down here, I'm going to try using this brush to create those veins and see if I like that better. Part of my issue is the paint's drying up. Okay. Now it kind of starts right up in here and comes in this direction. The direction of the veins is going to be the most important thing at this point, what you want to look at. It's just going to be kind of hit or miss here because there's not a ton. Actually, I think this is creating a better vein than the line work did. Now there is some that come this way and down and around. Create that edge of that, or the direction of that petal. And there's a couple in here that we'll put in. And that's going to be pretty much it. Just a few over here. I'm just using the edge of my chisel to do those. Now I'm going to reload my brush. There's one or two right in this area here. So we'll put these in. Want to create kind of a fold here. Just kind of happened naturally, so I'm not gonna say that it's in the resource material because it's not, but mine just happened naturally. So here we go, and let's put our veins in down here. It's not a lot. There's a couple that come down like this, and it's good because it creates, running out of paint, there we go, the way this petal grows. If you can see that or not, I think I'm going to go to the darker value. Kind of goes along with this dark shadow in here. That's better as far as being able to see it. Like that. And then there's a couple other little ones up in here and in here. And then we've got a couple more in here. That's about all the veins we're going to put in. Now I just cleaned out my brush and I got this one way too thick. So all I'm going to do is make a mess of it, I guess. So go back to my tool, my handy dandy tool. There we go. That's better. It's not the best, but it's better. That's better. Now these veins kind of go in this direction, so there are very few. Like that. Just looking to see if there's anything else that I want to do. I can get a little vein over here, I guess. Okay, one more thing we need to do. Now if you wanted to, another idea for the background is take a real dark green and you could either actually do this in acrylics or in oils and just make it look like there's some leaves back there if you want to. I actually like it like this, so I'm going to leave it like this. And we'll be good. Trying to think. Picking up my liner brush that we've been using. And I'm going to pick up straight yellow ochre. Now I don't like to have this be real bright and real light and have it draw away from the design. I don't want that. But I do want to be able to see, we're going to put our signature on here. Since this leaf goes over this way, I'm going to put my signature on this side. And again, yeah, see, that's not going to show. All right, let's go into straight yellow. I don't want to go too bright though, so I'm going to add it into a little bit of the yellow ochre. It's getting better, I think. I'm going to use my palette knife and brighten this up even more with the lightest yellow, which is the lemon. Wipe my palette knife off, and I'm going to go back in and pick up this color one more time. Now see how bright that looks? You would think that would show. We'll see. That's better, but I think we're going to, this isn't showing up at all. I'm going to pick up this color. Comes right up because it's not dry. And I think that had just a little bit too much of the yellow ochre in it to begin with. So I'm going into our lightest yellow. It's probably not called lemon yellow, but it's the color it is. Just wiping the water drips off of that's better. Pyrrole, so it doesn't, boy, this thing just doesn't want to work today. I'm going to pick that up one more time. All right. Starting to work, it just doesn't. There we go, that's better. And as I always say, you want to practice your name and how you want it to be on your signature. It's an important part of painting. You want to be sure and get it on here. More paint. I might have to go over this again too, but that's okay. At least you're starting to be able to see it. So there, I have my signature on there, and we are done. I'm gonna move this up a little bit better so you can see it. We'll start up here and move it down. Now what I'm going to do on the sides, which I haven't gotten around to yet, but I'm going to show you, the sides are still raw wood. I'm going to make a deeper green with the acrylics and darken that, and I'm going to hang it right on my wall once everything's nice and dry. So I want to thank you for watching my video today. And again, if you really do enjoy this type of painting, please do not hesitate to go into patreon.com/Colleen D. Aiken, and you will find my art school. You can subscribe for free right now just so you can see some of the classes that I'm offering. Got a lot of watercolors on there. I'm going to have a whole lot more oils in the future, so if you're into that, keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much. You have a lovely day.